Into the Batcave.
No.
You guys remember like a year ago when people worried about triggering me with Batman v Superman and there were superhero films? Yeah, I'm going to
I
tell
worry
you.
about triggering you with everything.
You were triggering me with everything. My kids still try to today. If you didn't see the Dad's Day card they made for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you put in there that Batman threatened the crooks with a copy of the Blu-ray of Batman v Superman. And I'm like, thank you.
I love that. God, your kids are awesome.
Like, thank you for putting that in my Father's Day card. I feel the love.
But they know you so well.
Yeah. And welcome to the Spoiler Room. Yes, it is Bat Month. Not only is it Bat Month, but we are continuing our Third Time's a Charm special series this year. And so it just worked out that we have a Bat film that meets the Third Time's a Charm experience, and that is going to be Batman Forever. And tonight I got a huge, phenomenal, a bat-tastic group of people in the Spoiler Room to talk about this film this evening. First off, we have Mr. Cole Meredith in his house. Hello, Cole.
Hello, Mark and the panel. Good to be here.
Glad to have you in here to talk about this just phenomenal piece of cinema. And next to Cole is the diva of the Spoiler Room. She is here with us again on this Bat journey. Dawn is with us. Hello, Dawn.
Hello, Mark. Good evening, gentlemen.
Glad to have you in the Spoiler Room as always. And next to her, BFD himself. Yes, it is the one, the only. It is Mr. Glenn Bittner. Hello, Glenn.
Hi.
Are you bat excited to be here tonight? I'm just.
Yes.
Wow. That's almost better than a sigh. And next to Glenn, he's returned because I guess he didn't get enough abuse the last time he was here, but he is once again with us. Say hello to David. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Bat Fiends. How are you?
We're just feeling our oats tonight. That's for sure. Whatever they call it. Nobody. And last but not least, we have the Bowtie Man himself back with us to discuss this Bat film, and it is Mr. Paul Salzer. Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well. I got my special bat bow tie out for this episode.
Yeah, and I'm sitting on my bat butt, and we're here tonight to talk about the third Batman film that was during the 90s, and we are talking about none other than Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever. Now, for those few of you who may not be familiar with this film, well, let's see what the IBM says is the summary and how accurate it is. This is always fun. Batman must battle both Two-Face and the Riddler with the help of an amorous psychologist and a young circus acrobat who becomes his sidekick, Robin. That's the short of it. There's a longer storyline, but that's about it. It's Batman. He acquires Robin, and there's Two-Face and the Riddler, and they all fight. Oh wow! Okay, so
acquires Robin like a bad disease.
Yeah, well, you never know. The teenage 24-year-old Robin. But we're going to start down the aisle here and do as we always do, just get initial feelings for these films, and then we'll go into what topics my fantastic crew want to talk about tonight. So first off, we will start with Paul. Paul,
hello.
How did you feel about Batman Forever when you first saw it, and how do you feel about it now?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying that I am not a huge fan of the Dark Knight type Batman. My Batman has always been the greatest detective on the face of the planet. That is the Batman that I enjoy. So that's why I feel that the Val Kilmer Batman actually meets a lot of my favorite things. If you threw out the animated series, I would say that Val Kilmer is my favorite Batman. So this, by extension of that, is one of my favorite Batman movies.
Boy, I did not bring enough alcohol tonight. No, that's awesome. That's great. So you enjoyed Batman Forever. Did you see it in the theater when it came out?
I did. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. And have you rewatched it? Do you still feel kind of the same way with it? Did it change on you at all?
I actually, like I did with the first Batman movie, when I did rewatch this, I found more artistic and adult things to look at. And by adult, I don't mean pornographic. I meant artistic, things.
Sure.
And I'll bring it up in our discussion, hopefully.
I'm looking forward to that. And David, do you remember when you saw this? Did you see this in the theater? And how do you feel about it? And do you still feel the same?
Well, I saw it at Mill Road Theater when it was still in existence.
Yes.
So when I saw it, I was like a teenager. So I was more or less like 16, 17 years old. And I enjoyed it then.
Mm-hmm.
Really think much of it. But now that I've seen it again, it's not as much of a favorite as it used to be.
Oh, nice way to put that. I like that. So is it because you just noticed more things in it that you didn't care for, that you may have overlooked when you were younger?
Pretty much. Mm-hmm. I'm on the fence on this one because while I was viewing it, what I remembered was not the same feeling.
Good way to put that. I like that it wasn't the same feeling, because it's interesting how our tastes and perspective on certain films that we may have liked when we were younger have changed over the years, either for the good or bad. That's why I'm glad we are revisiting these. So moving on to Glenn. Glenn, how about you? When you first saw it and when you rewatched it, how'd you feel? Same? Different?
Oh, well, I felt worse rewatching it because I had to rewatch it.
It's gonna be one of those episodes.
Yeah, it is going to be one of those episodes because cripes, this is horrible. I did not see this one in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I had no desire to see it in the theater. My kind of letdown from the Batman before this, and then just when I saw this one before it came out, I'm like, I'll wait, and I'm glad I did. I eventually saw it on video, and not a fan at all.
It's definitely a different approach from the first two films.
Now, mind you, I felt bad having to rewatch it. When I rewatched it, I felt a little better because I rewatched it on 2.5 times speed, and it's actually kind of funny that way. So it actually worked really well because the movie is it's so cornball at times. I mean, way beyond normal comic book cornballishness. And watching it at faster speed just kind of made that all blend together a little better.
That had to help with the Edward Nygma scenes played by Jim Carrey. He had to be like a chipmunk if you're playing at 2.5 times speed.
Yeah, which is fine because, oh my gosh, it's like I can take the guy in small doses, but those scenes are like 78 minutes long each. Him just talking and being, basically doing every character he ever did on In Living Color.
Yeah, all in one pair of bedazzled tights. So, Ed, Dawn, how about you? When you first saw Batman Forever and when you rewatched it, have the feelings changed? The same? How do you feel about this film initially?
Well, like Glenn, I did not see it in the theater. But for different reasons. Small child at the time, time limited, funds limited. I found the movie entertaining when it first came out for what it was. I mean, low humor. I didn't really think much about it back then, one way or the other. I saw it and then I forgot about it. Rewatching it for this, I found things that I liked and I found things that were painful. when I watched it back in the 90s, there were certain things I liked about it because they had, I think this was the movie after this movie came out, they made the Batman ride at Great America.
Mm-hmm.
And I associating it with that and going on the ride, Six Flags ride, that was fun. So you're thinking about, you kind of get that perspective. It's a fun roller coaster ride, but has nothing to do with the movie at all, except for all the black lighting. Oh, the freaking black lighting.
It is Joel Schumacher, so he does have his black light. I mean, we saw it in one of my favorite films, Flatliners. So he does enjoy that aesthetic, but you're right, it's in abundance, and so
I found things that I did like. There are certainly aspects that I liked, and we can get into those later. And then there were things that were miserable that actually I liked significantly less on the revisit.
And Cole, how about you? When you first saw it and when you rewatched it, I kind of know where your feelings are with it, but go ahead, lay it on me, sir. Have they changed? And how did you feel watching with Batman Forever?
The first time I saw it with a bunch of friends, like 6 or 7 friends. We drove up in 2 cars, and it was just huge at the time because I was lucky enough to grow up with people who loved movies, even though it was a small town, and we would always go to stuff like this. And everybody in this movie was huge at the time. So driving up, like Dan was into Tommy Lee Jones, and Steve was into Jim Carrey, and I was into Val Kilmer, and really excited to see Val Kilmer because I think Real Genius and The Doors had made him a hero in a lot of people's minds. So I thought like him in this role as the Dark Knight, before I saw it, I thought that was perfect. And we loved it. I mean, we loved it. It was a very theatrical experience. The audience was involved in it. Lots more kids than there were during Batman Returns and even the original, Burton's original. And I had a great time with it, I can remember the night vividly, and I can remember watching the movie. So, I mean, it stuck out to me. Revisiting it, I've watched it 2.5 times to prepare for the show. And, I know I can understand where a lot of the criticism is coming for, but for me, it just is really fucking good. I mean, it works because I can remember large portions of it visually, which is how I remember comic books. And the dialogue is, not to downplay any of the work anybody did on this. It's definitely a little bit of filmmaking by committee going on here, so who knows what came from where, but the dialogue is atrocious. I mean, I can't, even just sitting here now, if you had me at gunpoint, I couldn't name a good line from Batman or a good piece. I mean, he has horrible lines like women, just like the most obvious, type of garbage dialogue. But where the film works, and I think even where Batman and Robin works too, is it works on a visual level. It works in large splashes of color and large grand heroics with a score that backs it up and lots of sound effects and lots of bright color. So I think it holds up on that level. I mean, Glenn watched it at 2 times the speed. It actually gave me the idea to just turn down the volume and put on the soundtrack and watch it. Because visually, I really like, it's the opposite of what Burton did, aside from basically ripping off all of Burton's designs and throwing bright colors at them, but I think it works on a visual level, and that's what comics need for me. I don't really go so much with the story. I want to remember it visually, and I think this works on that level at least.
I love my whole crew. I love my crew because you all have varying opinions on this, and I love it. That's awesome that you're able to enjoy this film as much as you did, Cole. I'm glad. I'm going to try to, because I don't want this to go too long tonight, so prepare yourselves, folks. When I first watched this film, now, if you haven't gotten the impression, I fell in love with Burton's vision of Batman. Fell in love with it. So we get this film has the trip of the egos which is what I called the credit sequence for this one and the credit sequence for Batman and Robin, even worse than this one, is we get the names of the performers flying in, like, woo, like Val Kilmer, and I'm like, oh, come on, no, in colors. And then it opens, and there they are. They got Two-Face. He's threatening the guard who is ripped from 1966. I swear to God, they went back to 1966. They got that guard. Oh my God, there's acid, and they threw him in this movie. And Batman shows up in front of everybody, talking to Commissioner Gordon and talking to Nicole Kidman, who looks like she's, pardon my French, but about to cream her panties because Batman came flying in, which I'm like...
Tell us how you really feel, Mark. Sorry.
And it's like, did you hear his voice? You talked to Bruce Wayne like a half an hour later, and did you not notice it was the same voice? Are you not putting it together? How, come on, you've got all these PhDs. Anyway, so, and then there's that soundtrack, though. Even before all of that, I loved Danny Elfman's score, the nice brooding. And what do we get for a theme here? Something that makes my ears bleed. It sounds like the freaking percussion and brass are puking on each other, seeing who can vomit up more baked beans from the night before.
Like Glenn Miller and Dr. Seuss had a love child.
Thank you. Yes. Actually, that's like this whole film is like Glenn Miller and Dr. Seuss had a love child, and Tiny Tim's in the corner playing the ukulele. So, okay. That's how I was when I first watched it. Watching it again, still painful. But underneath the pain, underneath the things that just drove me batty, yes, I meant to say that, I see the potential of where this film could have gone had they not put in the 66 hokey, campy cheesiness. I see the potential here, and there were parts that I did not notice before that I hope one of our people in the panel bring up, and if not, we'll bring it up later. Like I said, I don't want to try to go too long. We have a large group here, but it still did not grow on me. I was kind of hoping it did, and there were, like I said, there were more glimpses in here of things that I enjoyed, and I'm a big visual guy. I don't mind visuals, but there was a lot more stuff in here that made me immediately forget that I just liked the part before it. And see, Doc, if Doc, you're ever listening to this episode, I kept it to about 5-minute rant instead of the half hour that he got way back when he and I, so yes, I do not care for this one. I have tried. This is actually the third time I've watched it since I originally saw it in the theaters. And yeah, it's still and I think it's just because first two Batman and Batman Returns had such an impact, and I loved them so much that to have a completely 180 turnaround in the approach and mostly the tone and everything just was too shocking for me, who was hoping for, at least a little bit more of the same, a little bit more of that tone. So now that I got that out of my system, I apologize.
Wow, man.
We will start tonight with, you think this is good, wait till we get Batman and Robin. We're going to see if that one grew on me, but that's next week. So we're going to start tonight off. We usually end it, but tonight we're going to start it off with our fantastic panel, and we're going to get what topic they'd like to bring to the table tonight for our group to talk about, and we're going to start off with Dawn. Dawn, what is one of the topics you brought tonight you'd like us to talk about?
One of them. There's so many things I want to talk about, but I'll start with one of the things that actually bothered me from the first time I saw it, and on this most recent viewing actually provoked a completely different perspective of this, and that's bat nipples. So the costume design that Joel Schumacher envisioned had the Batman costume with the nipples and more anatomically correct, the larger cod piece, the buttocks. It's a joke. I mean, it's a horrible joke. It's a joke because they're there. It's a joke because the camera zooms in on them repeatedly. There's nothing subtle about it. There's nothing artistic about it. I did read that he said, and I please confirm or disconfirm this, but I'm pretty sure it's true, that Joel Schumacher made the choice to add those things to the Batman costume because he wanted to have the costume more like a Greek or mythical god. The
Roman
sculptures.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
The sculptures. Okay, yeah.
The sculptures. So one of the things that I noticed, and this is what made me look at the movie differently this time, is the set design. I know it sounds like a leap, but seriously, you go when you're looking at whether it's true, and then you watch the movie really looking at the set design, you see these sculptures of mythical gods, mythical heroes. They're scattered throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
There's the statues in front of Wayne Manor, where the bat signal is. They're in almost every place they can possibly shove a giant statue of a classic statue, classic god. They have even in Dr. Chase, whatever.
Chase Meridian, yeah, Nicole Kidman's character.
Yeah, even in her bedroom, they have these statues of the gods. To all the way to the end, where the Riddler's throne is of the two thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Though it's scattered throughout, and the set design is just huge and overwhelmed with this. And I just kind of wondered what other people thought of that, if they noticed it, or if. Because it seemed to me like the set design, and especially including that, the whole set design just seemed claustrophobic and like he shoved everything he could possibly get into it.
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, there is pretty much a statue or something filled in every scene in here. We very rarely get any really empty empty space moments in here. David, what do you think? Is that something you noticed as well as with the set designs, how there seems to be that imagery of statues everywhere? And
I started noticing to see that throughout the whole set design myself, and I was trying to think of what symbolism he was going for. Now that she mentions the Roman aspect to the set design, yeah, I could definitely see the. I mean, much of the set was CGI.
Right.
Like that pan of the shot going into the Wayne Enterprises. That whole entire scenery was shot CGI. You know. But you notice like things in the walls like that. That I mean, it did seem like there was a whole bunch of shit thrown into the whole kit caboodle. I mean,
sure.
Was it only me, or when he went down through the chair and through that tube, was anyone else thinking Star Trek Spock funeral?
It had, yeah, a similar feel to it, yeah, when he does the tube at Wayne Manor. And what the container he was in as well was definitely resembling of a torpedo tube and a torpedo that contained the dead Spock. So yeah, so there was a resemblance there. I will say, yeah, I kind of noticed that too. Paul, how about you with the set designs in this? Did they feel kind of cluttered with just about every type of statue and imagery you could think of?
No, because that was the point. When I watched it the second time, with the idea of what is it that I know now more about comic books? What is it that I know more about movies? And I tried to find the hidden meaning. And Schumacher does I think, a good job of putting in hidden meanings. And if you watch this film with the set design, yes, those statues, but you also notice that a lot of times there were things in pairs. And yes, because of the Two-Face thing, but it wasn't just isolated to Two-Face. It was done in the statues. It was done in the, how the gates opened in Wayne's Manor. It was a lot of things like, pairing up people in different aspects. All of that led to this whole thing about the duality of man and the need of two different sides of a person. And again, because you had the main one of the main villains being Harvey Two-Face, it lended itself really well to that. But you also had two villains. So, there's this whole aspect of the two sides. And that's why the whole bat nipple thing didn't really bother me at all either. I think the thing that I actually noticed more in this thing was the one shot of Bat Butt, at the when he was doing the sonar costume. That was the thing that stuck out to me. It was like that. And here's the thing: people complain when they do that to like a female character. Why can't they do that to a guy character?
Absolutely.
I complain that they did it to the Val Kilmer Batman character. I don't. I'll complain on both the female
over-sexualized,
and the Batman. It's not.
And they did it to make a joke.
Yeah, I don't think they did. I honestly.
They did it to make Val Kilmer out to be a sex symbol. That's pretty much what it was, because he was a sex symbol at that point in time.
I would almost say it wasn't a joke, and that again, we could go back and forth on this. I would say it was almost a joke if it wasn't for the tone of the rest of this film.
But also take a look at the one of the comic book series that Dick Sprang does. Through the Batman series, you look at his artwork, and you will definitely see. Everyone says, "Oh, this was heavily inspired by Burton's original movies." But if you take a look at Dick Sprang's work, you'll see the fin, that silly looking fin on the Batmobile. Yeah. That comes from Dick Sprang, not from Joe Schumacher. There are lots of elements of that artist's artwork in this movie, and that's something I didn't know when I first watched the film, but when as an adult and knowing more about the Batman comics and then being able to watch this film again, it's like it opens up a whole new thing of watching the film. And that's why that whole duality thing too, because I watched the film with that in mind. And I also looked for scenes of obsession and stuff like that. And it made the film, much better in my mind.
And I understand that, but you can't justify the butt shot, dude.
I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that, but that it's
okay.
No. I'm saying the fairness. Fairness should go both ways. I mean, if people and you were nice enough to actually complain about it in both directions, but there was a lot of people that complained about it in a different way, and they didn't take it as being it's fair to do that to a guy too if the opportunity comes around. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't think it was a joke. I honestly do believe that he meant it to be like superheroes are modern day mythology. These are gods. They're meant to look like gods. And unfortunately, he just assumed that the butt is the personification of godliness, I guess.
And we can we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this. I think it was a joke because of the way they handled Batman. He says, "I'll get drive-through." He says a few other jokes. The way they handle the environment a lot of times with a lot of these characters, trying to lighten them with humor. I honestly think the butt shot was was meant for humor and not a god thing. The bat nipples I can understand, and I'll get you I'll agree there that with the Roman imagery and the statues and everything, and him being a gladiator and taking it from that angle, I can see. But the gratuitous butt shot,
see, I noticed that more than the nipples. I honestly did not notice the nipples, that everyone talked about, and was like, really? Was it? I didn't notice it. It's like, did I miss it? Did I do something wrong?
It was kind of in that whole scene with where Chase is, I've always liked the bad boy. In high school, it was this, and now it's black rubber. It's like, oh God, no.
It was prevalent, and I get what you're saying, Paul. I totally get. But as far as that shot goes, one of the few things that I just didn't like about what they were trying to do with this Batman character, and that was one. And I honestly feel they put it in as a light humorous thing because he's doing the whole get up and set up montage. But let's ask the rest of the panel. Glenn, do you think Buttshot was gratuitous, or was he going for the gladiator gods angle and just happened to thought that Val Kilmer's butt, was part of that?
No, it was gratuitous.
Okay. And what do you think about the Roman imagery, possibly with all the statues and stuff, and he maybe being a gladiator?
I think there was a sale at Roman Pier 1, and they bought every statue they could get. And set decoration. Oh my God, it was pretty ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
The number of statues, and just it was. I mean, you have every building in the city looks like the Hall of Justice from Judge Dredd. It was. No.
Yeah. I noticed that watching it this time around too, that the screen, Joel really wanted to fill the entire screen with imagery. And yes, I fully recognize there were statues in Batman Returns and Batman, but it really felt like every room in every Gotham town had some kind of statue, either small or large. And maybe he was going for the Roman thing. I like that idea. Cole, you enjoy this film a lot, as Paul does. What did you think with the imagery in here with all the statues and the Roman imagery? Do you think that was going for, and was the butt shot gratuitous?
Oh wow! Well, I mean, somebody had to do it at some point, and you can only do so many of these dress up, like getting ready to go kick somebody's ass scenes, and you run out of stuff to show. There's the bat emblem, there's the gloves, there's the boots, there's the cape and the cowl. So I just thought, Schumacher, being who he is, following his stuff since, St. Elmo's Fire, I guess. And he was just doing that to kind of get do something different and get a laugh. I think everybody's right, really. I mean, obviously it's come out that he's homosexual. And so, I mean, everybody is probably right in this. He just probably thought, 20 years from now, everybody's going to be talking about the butt shot from Batman Forever, and here we are talking about it. So yes. I think it's just fine. And it entertains me because I've never seen it before, and I'll probably never see it again. So it entertains me on that level. It cracks me up. I don't know if it was meant to be taken seriously, but Paul knows a lot more about this movie than I do. But he really does. But it always makes me smile. Dawn is right. I'm not going to add anything to what Dawn said. I mean, she's right on about everything there with the statues. And I guess the only thing that I would add is this is a very this is a movie that's comfortable in its own body, and I don't just mean that as a metaphor. Burton's a little repressed. His characters are, at least in the Batman films, are a little sexually repressed, and in fact, that's Bruce Wayne, when he's asked about women by Catwoman, he insinuates that he only had one girl. He said, "I had one girl, Vicky Vale." So this Batman is not that. You know, this is a different kind of Batman. This is the kind of Batman who would have bat nipples, you know, and who would be after Chase Meridian. I don't think Keaton's Batman would have fit into Schumacher's world, you know, just because it's a different kind of Batman, you know. So it all works for me. It all ties together and works together as a piece.
Yeah, and you're right. Within this world, at least everything worked because it was in this, you know, world, and so it does seem to fit. And whether or not he meant it humorous or not, whether or not it was gladiators or not, I mean, we can talk about it. And as it mentioned, here it is 20 years, you know, almost 20 years later, and yeah, we're still 22 years later, and we're still talking about the bat butt. So if anything, he made it memorable. Whether or not it was humorous or serious, he did make it memorable. And those statues definitely give you a lot to look at with each scene. So good or bad, I guess, you know, it all depends on what your approach is. So good question there, Don. Good. And we'll move over now to Paul, because I'm waiting to hear what topic or question would you like to talk about tonight with Batman Forever?
What was your number one takeaway from the film?
Oh, we're starting with that. Okay, let's go with Glenn. Glenn, what was your number one takeaway from the film?
My number one takeaway from the film. That's a wonderful question. You know, this would it's going to kind of play into my question. My number one takeaway is Val Kilmer, I think, is a very good actor. And based on his acting role in, say, Tombstone, did he just phone this in? Did he like witness like 10 seconds of Jim Carrey and say, "Oh, I don't need to try for this"? That was my takeaway from it. Yeah, I'm not. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to really do. I just give me a sandwich because he had a few of those, and let me just read my lines and I'm done.
I will say yes. It's a good point to take away, because it does feel, considering how well of a performer Val Kilmer is, his performance in here, as I said, out of all the Batmen, well, until we get to Batman and Robin, but even of the other ones, you know, maybe it fit because they were trying to go for the 60s style, but I agree. Val Kilmer really didn't seem to be putting forth much effort. And even when they gave him the humorous lines, like, "Are you trying to get under my cape?" or "It's the car. Chicks like the car." Even when he's saying that, you get this feeling like this is pain for him. Like he's like, okay, there, I said your line. Give me my money now. That's just the feeling I got. Well said. We'll go to Dawn next. Dawn, what was your number one takeaway from this film?
Oh, that's hard.
Well, one of the things. Let's go with one of.
I really had problems resolving. When I go back to think about the film, I really wonder if how many morals they were trying to stick into this film.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's Batman, so if they were harking back to the 66 Batman, there were tons of them, because that's what they did. There was always a moral somewhere, a lesson to be learned. But there were the big theme throughout was the box, and the quote that it turns people into zombies, and Nigma's response, well, that's what they said about TV. But then thinking about when this film came out, that was also when the internet started getting really big.
Mm-hmm.
So was that a social commentary for the time?
Oh,
And that really kind of, and of course, then there was the other one. That there was the big one that goes throughout all of the Batman themes, and that's the duality of this is who I am and this is who I show people. But that one is so tired, as far as I'm concerned, that I don't even want to talk about it. I like the whole other. Was this a moral commentary? The whole Edward Nygma and the box.
yeah, you know what? That thought crossed my mind as well when I was watching this. The whole internet vibe. It was like, holy, like, wow! Enigma's making the interwebs. We're making a statement of the interwebs on here, I think, or at least alluding to this emerging technology. Yeah, I got that same vibe because everybody connected, sharing information. It didn't kill people, but
No, it didn't. But it turned them into zombies.
But it did turn him into zombies as he fed off and used their knowledge to make himself smarter. So, yeah, there's definitely, I think, a little bit of a statement on technology in there with that. So, I'm glad you mentioned that because I had that similar vibe. David, how about you? What's the one thing or one of the main things that you took away from watching Batman Forever?
The one thing, one or two things that I took away. Well, it's hard. To me, the biggest thing that I took away from it was the fact that even though Robin showed up like 3/4 of the way into the film, I mean, some of the film to me, I believe, was based on, or that he was trying to base it on the fact that Robin's family had died,
right,
or had been killed by Two-Face, and I think they were trying to somewhat compare his life and how he began with Batman, and somehow connect them somewhere down the road, which didn't end up until the end of the movie. But to me, I took. See, I noticed the pain in Robin, and I noticed the pain in him when he saw Batman or Bruce Wayne just walk out the door. You know, I mean, to me, some of the film was based on that comeuppance and come togetherness of how Schumacher thought Robin role should be.
Right.
And going back on what also to me, when I think of Edward Nygma, I also think of from the 1950s Dianetics with John Hubbard and his machine that he uses to evict emotions.
Right. It
with
does,
Scientology.
right. It does have that vibe. So yeah, it's the Enigma character especially. It's interesting their approach with him. You know, the box and him gaining the knowledge. And don't get me wrong, in certain roles, I enjoy Drew Carey. wrong Carey. That would have been funny. Jim Carrey, depending on the role. And this one, yeah, I get what you're saying, David, with that. And with Robin, it felt like they were trying to revisit, yet not revisit Batman's origin story by using Robin, because he does have the similar story, which has always been, the case. And yeah, Joel Schumacher is exploring that in here, and it does feel a little bit like a soft reboot almost. This whole film does in many ways. Well, in other ways, a harsh reboot, but yet still trying to hang on to some of the things that I think they established in the first two films. So definitely an interesting observation there, David, especially with the Robin character, who we will definitely get to see all kinds more in the next one. But and Cole, what was your one takeaway from this film?
I mean, on the positive, the visuals, just a series of wildly inventive and sort of aesthetically rich visuals that just it just never stops coming at you. On the negative, the dialogue. If there, this is like a go-to book on how to not write dialogue for a Batman film.
Wait! You don't like the line? Try fireman, less to take off.
It's like, but that said, I like the film, and after a couple 7 and 7s, I might even say I love the film. I mean, but the dialogue, I do. When I have never made a comic book film, seriously, obviously, but when I sit down to write a script, I sometimes I do think of Batman Forever, and just like, I don't know, how you could give a superhero the line "women." Just seems like you can't come up with anything really. Sorry, I'm ranting.
It's okay.
But I tell you, I can remember seeing these visuals on the big screen, and that I can't name. I don't know if I can name one other movie I saw in 1995, but I remember seeing this. It's visually, it's just bombastic. It's amazing.
Sure.
Oh, this was that was also my question, by the way, so we can just skip my question for the panel. I was just curious what people remembered about it and what they'd taken away, and we just covered it. So,
well, I was going to go to Paul then to answer his own question. What did you take away from it, Paul?
Obsession. Obsession is what I took away from it. You have Chase's obsession with Batman, and then later with Bruce. You have Ed's obsession with Bruce. You have Two-Face's obsession with Batman. You have Robin's obsession with Two-Face. The box is basically showing everybody's fantasy, gives them the ability to see their own obsessions and kind of live through it. And then the very, very last song, Kiss by a Rose, is basically a song that if you listen to the lyrics, you can kind of get obsession and addiction from the lyrics of that song. So that's what I got from this film, was the whole aspect of this film is about obsessions.
Awesome.
I can totally see that.
That I can totally see. I especially watching it the second time, I can definitely see that theme of obsession running through it.
Which is why I think the characters were a little bit over the top. They probably did that because they were trying to show the obsession, which I think in your defense, or everybody who doesn't like this film that much, is defense is that little over the topness that they were pushing kind of did make it seem unreal.
And okay, I'll answer as well.
Yay!
Okay, here we go. When I first
5 minutes
watched
or less
it,
for the rant.
when I first watched it, I came out of the film and said, "That's not my Batman." I'm like they've. I didn't say that they ruined it, because I still had the Batman and Batman Returns films, and I still had the comics, which at that time still had more of the Tim Burton direction. But for me, I came out of it going, "Wow, that was just bad." But again, we're talking in 95 here, so I was like 20 when this came out, not quite 20 yet. So I just came out of it going, because again, the shock value of the completely different approach than what we had in the first two films. Those first two films clicked with me. This one, totally not. And also, we talked about cod pieces earlier. Jim Carrey really needed one for his costume. Let's just put that out there right now. We get to the point where he's in the big dome and he's in the bedazzled. He's pulling a Frankenfurter. I'm like, okay. And then he like, no, it was when he was in the Bat Cave, when he blew up the Bat Cave and he's trouncing around in his green, not the bedazzled one, but the green tights. I'm like, someone get the man a cod piece, please, because Blu-ray really isn't helping right now.
Oh,
Wow.
But in any case, but now when I took away from it, I'm like, wow, they really tried. I saw more of the effort of them trying to hold on to a bit of that spirit and development, and it's probably because Burton was producer on this.
Yeah.
That they had in the original. I mean, the scenes in here with the flashback with his death were almost taken directly from the Burton films.
Word.
If you look at the way they have it silhouetted and such, there are a few other elements in here as well that harken back to the Burton films. So, but at the same time, they're trying to be lighter and the toy commercial for marketing that they want it to be. And so looking at it now, one of the things, and I'll get to my question later, but one of the things that I took away from it now was they were trying to thread a thin line of still giving the feel of Burton, but also giving us the really bright, more family-friendly Batman, and it still didn't work for me. So that was one of the things I took away from it, was you could still see Burton's a little bit of his influence in here as being producer, but at the same time, they were trying to make it more family-friendly, and I guess that mixture just did not work for me. So that's what I took away from it. So let's go then with Cole. Well, you said you already had your question answered, so we'll come back to you. Why don't you? What you think? See if you can think of a different question by chance.
Well, I could. I mean, if you want me to, I thought we could save time. But I mean, you mentioned Burton's involvement, and I think that's interesting because his name is basically the first name that pops up.
Right.
You talked about all the flying celebrity names, and you're right on about that. But his is the first, I believe, after the Warner Brothers logo.
It doesn't fly in, though, in Super Graphics. Though.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. This is correct. But I do wonder, I mean, because the next movie, Burton bailed, right? And it sank it's just infamous in how that had failed, even though I personally enjoy it for personal reasons, deeply disgusting reasons. I think it's like this maybe some of that Burton residue helped it. I mean, maybe what people really wanted was a sort of not upbeat Burton movie, but not just such a, we're going to shove your soul down the toilet Burton movie, like just that type of, I mean, literally, Batman Returns ends in the sewers. I mean, you can't get any lower than that aesthetically. The first one ended at one of the tallest buildings in the city.
Right.
So, I wonder if people weren't just, Burton's name was attached. A lot of his designs were there. I wonder if, I don't know, what do you guys think? Did his involvement help elevate this film to what it is?
David, what do you think? Do you think Burton's involvement was still there and his influences were kind of visible in this film?
They were not as visible as one may like to think, because I think, I mean, the Burton aspect of it, it was like, to me, some of it was in the beginning with you starting out right away with Two-Face. His goons had that little electricity going through their bodies, doing some kind of old school Power Ranger shit. And I think that whole beginning was kind of goofy, So to me, it's like the room while it was directed, and once he saw the funny was going on, he was like, "Okay, Schumacher, You got it from here.
Nice. Glenn, how about you? Is Burton's production influence? Do you think that still shows up in this film?
A bit, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's there.
Sure.
and then a truck full of Manic Panic exploded all over it. And that's pretty much what you got. I mean, God, yeah. I think it was
Animaniacs.
Yeah, I think you said it, Mark, with the what was it, the black lights.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes.
Gotham couldn't afford real bulbs, so they just paid all the street lamps with black light. So there you go.
Yeah, I guess that's what it was.
That must have been.
Or they're prepping for a citywide rave. I don't know. Maybe
It could be. It could be a citywide rave. We are talking mid-90s. So
yeah.
That is true. There is the rave crowd in here. Paul, how about you? Do you think there is Burton influence still in this, even though he was only producer and not director?
I think it was more. I think I saw it more the other way, where his lack of influence, because without him being in the director's thing, I think that's why Keaton didn't want to play Batman again. So we got Val Kilmer. I think that the artistic work went more to the Strang comic books and not the Burton-esque comic vision. And also too, I think that Burton would have been able to keep Carey and Tommy Lee Jones much more in check than what Schumacher seemed to. I think Schumacher just kind of let them go nuts a little bit, and I think Burton would not have allowed them to insert their character visions into it too. Yeah, so I think his lack of presence was much more noticeable to me than his actual presence.
It's a good point, and I noticed that with this. You know, people talk about it as Two-Face, and I love Tommy Lee Jones. Don't get me wrong. I love Tommy Lee Jones. But he was more Joker 2.0 in this than he was Two-Face.
Thank you. Yes.
He was a lot more Joker. And I understand the duality with Two-Face, but even that, I think Two-Face is portrayed fantastically. Well, almost anything related to the Batman animated series is fantastic. But the Two-Face there made more sense because he still was in control. He wasn't nearly as wild and over the top. You make a good point there, Paul, that him and Carey both seemed like they were just given the keys to the kingdom, and Joel Schumacher just said action and just let them just do their thing without really controlling them. And you need that for Carey. Oh my God. Especially back then, you needed that for Carey, because this was not the Riddler so much as this was just Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, bringing up his jokes, the way he had delivered his lines and everything, I'm just like, wow, man, really? I'm like, tone it back just a little.
And yet we see echoes of his stuff in like the new Lex Luthor and Jamie Foxx and like what was that, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
So oddly, he's had this weird influence, even though he was playing his own personality at the time. I wonder what would have happened if he'd taken it more in the Cable Guy direction.
Ooh, yeah.
Why didn't he play this movie a little darker? It would have been fun, you know?
Well, and that's the thing. There are, again, as I mentioned when the opening, there were glimpses that I didn't notice the first time because I was just too overwhelmed by the fact this was not what I expected. You know, what I had grown to love. But watching it again, there were glimpses. There are glimpses where Carey isn't quite being so Jim Carrey, and I like those bits of him as the Riddler when he wasn't being so over the top, but then he'd ruin it. We'd get a bit in there, you know, like you know, when he's dealing with the boss, Ed Begley Jr. In this, you know, he just continually took it too far. in the scenes, and I'm just like, or when he was playing Enigma Tech and he was talking about, and he confronted Bruce Wayne before he gets all really Riddlery, excuse me. I like those scenes. I like the scenes where it was Bruce Wayne against Enigma. In that scene, for the most part, that part I loved. And then he would say joygasm, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, totally. Well, it's cool. It's interesting that Joel Schumacher actually gave Jim Carrey his first sex scene later in their career with the number 23. So it might be that they were really being, maybe that Carrey wasn't so off the hook, but maybe that they were being told to do that.
It could be. It's always hard to tell. Dawn, how about you with everything in here? Do you see still a little bit of Burton's influence in producing in this film? Glimpses?
Very, very little. Like Paul, what was more evident was and what kind of made it more painful to watch was Burton's lack of presence. I completely agree with you. Jim Carrey was simply Jim Carrey with no stops. Watching it again, you can see his language, his movements, his jokes, his style. You could pretty much pick out scenes that he was doing and say, oh yeah, that's recycled from Ace Ventura. Oh yeah, that one was on The Grinch. Oh yeah, that one was his pick a movie. I mean, it was just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey from the physical comedy. And not that he's not he's not good at being him, because he's fantastic at being him. But part of it too, again, was the poor writing. I did not think his riddles weren't all that clever.
No.
And most of his comedy was just vicious. I don't think it was light or bright, or I think it was just vicious.
Yeah, it was, and I'm glad Paul mentioned that, and because it was just so evident in here. I mean, it made me want to know. Yeah, it made me go back to wanting those riddlers of, what goes up white and comes down yellow and white. I suddenly want those riddles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, but we don't, because we look at it going, dude, man, the whole audience is answering these. It's not like these weren't really creative or even involved riddles. I mean, if anyone ever played the Arkham series of video games, there's some cool riddles in there. I mean, even that type of approach.
And what does he say is the greatest riddle of all? Who is Batman? That's not a riddle. No. Come on.
It's not a riddle.
No, these are they were ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the Gotham TV series,
riddle. I have laces, and I cover your socks when I'm on your feet, and I rhyme with moves. I mean, that's
yeah. Oh, yeah. And David, how about you? Did you have a topic or something you wanted to bring to the group?
Well, see, originally when I first saw Batman Forever, I really, really liked the Two-Face character. But seeing him again, even though I love Tommy Lee Jones as an actor, hokey. I mean, I almost think that he's almost a Joker kind of character, because his mouth is kind of twisted up, kind of. And I don't know about anyone else, but I just could not. Val Kilmer's lip, or his upper lip. The little whatever the fuck it was that I could not stop looking at that whenever it was the open bet. It was distracting.
So the character
and see, I guess I'm on the outside here. I do not think that Val Kilmer is a very good actor.
Okay.
But I do like his performance in Tombstone and maybe 2 other films, but that's it. So to me, the Batman did not do it. I guess I really didn't have much to say or talk about because I think everyone else has talked about.
Well, so you're concerned with possibly miscasting?
Oh yeah, definitely miscasting of that. I think that I could definitely see that there were a lot of recycled words from past films, like with Jim Carrey. When they just gotten the money, you could hear the mask in him when he was inside the vehicle counting the money. Right after he'd gotten the money in the mask, you could hear the same fucking laugh.
You could, but I like what you brought up because we could discuss about that. We've talked about Carrey a lot and mentioned Tommy Lee, Batman. We haven't talked about Batman too much. So I think you bring up a good point with Val Kilmer and his Batman. Their approach with it is definitely different than what we had seen previous. So, Glenn. Yeah, I mean, we've alluded to it, but do you think they had the right cast and they did the wrong approach, or did they wrong cast Batman and Two-Face and Riddler?
I think they had. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Glenn.
I think some of the casting was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sold on whether or not Kilmer was a good choice or not. I think Tommy Lee Jones was fine as Two-Face. I actually think he did Two-Face pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Carrey is a complete miscast for the Riddler. I think you needed someone who's more cerebral, more, I guess, witty as opposed to goofy. Because he's just a goofball. That's all he is in this. He's just a big goof. And yeah, just so I mean, Nicole Kidman is completely wasted in this.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think Nicole Kidman is like an amazing actress. I don't think she's bad, but I don't think she's amazing. But I mean, you could have almost had a cardboard cutout play her role.
Yeah, with what they wrote her character, I can definitely see that it really was a waste. David, what were you going to say?
I actually don't remember anymore.
Oh, that's okay.
Brain fart.
It's okay.
What did you tell him before?
Oh, I was just asking because you alluded to it in your topic about the casting of Val Kilmer and then Tommy Lee Jones as well, the miscasting and their approach to these characters. Was it the approach or just miscast for these roles?
Well, I like I said before. I mean, to me, the casting, I don't think that Val Kilmer was right for the role.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I do, on the one hand, believe that Jim Carrey had it in him to be the Riddler.
Right.
But they had to. They had to have done whatever they did for Mork and Mindy with Robin Williams to keep it to keep him and his spontaneous
right
psychobabble. As soon as it comes out, you just can't stop it. Stop his motor mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, whatever they did then, they would have had to do in this film.
Yeah, and I don't think they did. But
No.
Dawn, how about you? Was it a wrong approach with the characters or miscasting?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think Val Kilmer could have made a really good Batman. I think he could have been, because I think he did a really decent job of Bruce Wayne, and I don't think he would have been that bad as Batman either. But between the dialogue and the script and the story, and the direction, and the potential for Val Kilmer to be a good Batman was there. He was certainly not the right person for that Batman.
Right.
So it was really, it's like same with Tommy Lee Jones. I really enjoy Tommy Lee Jones as an actor. I was trying to think of him in other roles that he'd played the bad guy, like on Blown Away with Jeff Bridges,
right,
and on Under Siege with Seagal.
Seagal, yeah.
And he made fantastic bad guys, over the top kind of manic bad guys on in those movies. But I think he really amped up his physical comedy to more of the Carrey level.
Right.
And they didn't need two physical. They didn't need two people with hyperactive physical comedy in this. They like Biff Glenn said, it should have been more cerebral.
Right. It should have been.
You needed somebody with intelligence, not just physical comedy.
Yes.
And don't even get me started on Nicole Kidman.
Cole, how about you, real quick? Do you have anything to add about the casting? Do you think I know you and Paul enjoyed it, but I want to get your opinion still. Do you think the reason people might not have cared for these characters, was it their wrong approach or maybe the wrong cast?
No, I don't think it was the wrong cast. I think that's a pretty good cast. I think they put together a pretty good group of people, and I think it went over pretty good at the time. I mean, I think maybe if Batman and Robin, which by the way, I said earlier I liked it for disgusting reasons. I was trying to be funny. I actually do like that. So if there's a fan out there listening to it, I apologize. I have to stand forth with the few Batman and Robin fans, because we're like 3 people. But I wonder. I think this is a pretty good movie, and I think it was well cast. And I just wonder if the combination of bad dialogue and Batman and Robin doesn't hurt its reputation irreparably, because there are some amazing visuals in this movie. I mean, if you were to take a dozen screenshots and put them into a comic book, it would translate well.
Yes, I will say it will translate well for that. So, Paul, would you agree? I know you and Cole both are really more on the positive with this, but do you think people's approach, maybe many, even now, not so much maybe when it came out, but definitely now, do you think it was people don't like the approach they took with the characters, or maybe the casting was wrong?
I think at the time, I remember I thought that it was a perfect cast. At the time. Now watching it as an adult, I didn't think that Tommy Lee Jones, again, when he was first out, it was like, oh, perfect for Two-Face. But then when I see him now, it was like, I would have loved to have seen if Burton would have allowed like Billy D. Williams, or was it Billy D. Williams?
Yeah, Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see him do it, because as an adult, it would have been like, he would have done a much different take on it. I agree with everybody that Jim Carrey just simply played the Riddler like himself, and I think that was the box office appeal that maybe the studio was trying to get. Hey, everyone likes Jim Carrey. Let's let Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey, and everyone's gonna love him. And it didn't feel like the Riddler to me. And I heard that Robin Williams was in talks to be the Riddler.
Right.
And I wonder if he would have. I think he would have done a better job at it. And although he could be over the top like Jim Carrey, I think he can tone it back down if he had to. At least in later works, he showed that he could.
At this point, where
Totally agree with
when
you.
this film came out, Robbins definitely could have brought it back better. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I definitely think that was probably a bad choice. I loved the choice for Robin. I thought he was a great thing. It was like, oh yeah, I love this guy, you know, and of course you know how I felt about Val Kilmer. I liked the fact that he played Batman. Yeah, the riddles were really weak, so he could, you know, he came off as being a genius, of course. But when I was younger, it was like, oh yeah, he was my smart Batman. That's what I liked. I didn't like his
a no-kill Batman, right? You know, even at the end,
he kills.
Oh, really? Does he?
Well, yeah, because he throws up the coins, and that causes Two-Face to stumble.
Well, yeah, but he's not like blowing motherfuckers up. You know?
He didn't. No, but he's avoiding missiles and letting them blow up the bad guys. He's still killing people. It's not as evident in it, but he's still. The deaths are still happening in this.
Right.
Gotcha.
But it's kind of like the Christian Bale one. It says, you know, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. That's kind of that mentality too.
Yeah. I get that.
But I think I didn't like Val Kilmer's Bruce Wayne, oddly enough. I thought that I was so in love with Keaton's version of Bruce Wayne because he seemed much deeper and much more. I felt like I wanted to see more of that character. And Val Kilmer seemed very distant, like he was. Like, there was very little distinction between his Bruce Wayne and his Batman. So
yeah, there was very little. That was my takeaway. One of my takeaways from this was that Bruce Wayne and Batman were the same. That's why I mentioned, and I apologize again for my rant at the beginning of the show, but why I mentioned that no one seemed to notice. At least Keaton changed the volume or the grovelly a little bit. This one, he's talking exactly the same. He's like Adam West. It's like
there is the first time you hear him as Batman, though. I think he has that growly voice, and I was like, no, don't do that. I don't like him. That's the bad Batman. I don't want him.
Yeah, I don't know. All great points, folks. Glenn, did you have a topic or something you wanted to talk?
Oh, we already did.
Oh, we did. Okay, I apologize. Oh, that's right.
Phoning it in of Val Kilmer.
Yes, that's right. The phoning it in of Val Kilmer. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Sorry.
No,
Bat phoning it in of Val Kilmer.
Bat phoning it in. I like that. Bat phoning it in. You're absolutely right. So, Paul, you are definitely the shining knight for Batman Forever. I think we got to yours too. We got to everybody except mine. Okay, we're on time too. I apologize.
Get ready, guys. Get ready. Get ready for this question. It's going to be a doozy.
I'm not going to rant. What I am going to say is, for all the talk, all the things that were going on after Batman Returns, the complaints from the producers that it's not family friendly enough, that it was too dark, that it needed to be more marketable to younger crowds. Watching it again, this film is even more perverse than Batman Returns. Would you agree or disagree, and why? Dawn.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I don't think this film was any lighter at all. This, I felt the humor, especially the humor, was much more vicious, and I kind of went back and forth between whether or not the humor was vicious or malicious. And I don't think there was malice intended. I just think that it was just it was completely indifferent. It was just vicious, and there's no better word for it. Yeah. Thinking of a brighter film, a lighter film, there was nothing lighter or brighter about it.
There's a lot of sex in this film too.
A lot of sex in this film.
Either innuendo or very blunt, as we've mentioned before with the Nicole Kidman character. I do apologize for my phrase before, but it was simple fact. You watch how she plays that the minute Batman shows up, and I'm like, get a room right now. Holy, she's like ready to jump his bones right there.
Yeah, she's just a little. She's a little sex kitten. She's a vamp. That's all she's interested in getting under his cape.
Yes, which he says, "Are you trying to get under my cape?"
Even to the point where he comes creeping on her balcony and she's naked wearing a sheet.
Yeah. or the bat symbol where she lights the bat signal. He comes running thinking there's trouble, like someone's blown something up, and she shows up in her latest Victoria's Secret catalog outfit. And it's like, what? You know? And then Commissioner Gordon later shows up in his LL Bean, but
no, that's what kind of reminds me of the 60s campiness, you know. At least in the, I mean, there was a little bit more less clothes back in the 60s. You know what I mean? To late 70s.
Mm-hmm. Would you say though that this film still has a lot of that sexual innuendo and perversion that we saw and then we talked about in Batman Returns last week?
I actually think it took a slight tone back with the female lead, because I think Catwoman in Batman Returns was definitely a meow, you know.
Right.
I think that someone sat in an office toilet room and just wrote the script.
And they kept writing till they ran out of toilet paper to write on. No.
And then somebody else wrote some flashcards for Val Kilmer. So,
Glenn, how about you? Do you think this still has that perversion and sex that we saw in Batman Returns?
No.
No?
No. No, not the same way. No, not at all.
Not in the same way.
No, I mean, I suppose it is perverse in that, you know, he's kind of macking on, you know, a cardboard cutout, but that's, you know, people want to have sex with, you know, a magazine picture. That's fine.
Sure.
No, it's not. It's, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's, you know, personally, I don't want to think that much about this movie. I don't want to put this much effort into it.
I'm sorry, man.
Oh no, it's not. It's just that it's not that the movie's like, you know, that absolutely awful. It's just that.
Yeah, it kind of is.
You don't want to give it that much respect.
Yeah, it kind of is. But it's the fact is that I've seen Batman done really well. I mean, when I first saw this, I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't think it was terrible. Watching it now, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty awful. But it's pretty awful because I've seen what they can do with Batman.
Right.
And just with superhero movies in general. I mean, or comic book movies in general. You can make really good comic book movies with like good characters and not just cheesy, you know, roll some boggle dice dialogue. So, and you know, maybe have, you know, a riddle that's actually a freaking riddle, as opposed to, you know, just multiple choice with one answer. So yeah, no, it's no.
No.
Any question you ask me about this, the answer is probably be no.
Okay, well, that's Cole, how about you? Did you still see the sex and perversion somewhat similar to what we saw in Batman Returns, or is that not there?
No, this has been the most entertaining show ever. The sexuality in Batman Forever is more conventional, even though they're talking about whips and kind of have this weird S&M vibe, whatever that is. But, you know, you're not dealing with people with deep, shattered psyches and, you know, I'm going to teach you my French flipper trick. You know, it was Batman. Batman Returns was a little. Batman Returns, I mean, I still kind of, when I describe Danny DeVito's Penguins to people who haven't seen it, like, do I use the word pedophile in there? Because he was like right on the verge of just being unwatchable. So I can see. I don't get, this movie's more like All American. Like you've got like Nicole Kidman, and she's got her fingers all over the bat nipples, and it's more safe. It is. It's safe sexuality that teenagers are gonna embrace. It's not, the penguin, just the pussy I've been looking for, that kind of weirdness. It's horrifying. Batman Returns is a horrifying film, really.
The lewdness.
Jim Carrey says "spank me," and at one point thrusts his genitals forward and says "joygasm," and you say this is more tame than the version in Batman Returns.
Yeah, but it's not taken seriously. It's just a bunch of goofballs like doing butt shots and like a bunch of drunk high schoolers kind of in your yard. In a way, like Batman Returns was more like, we're gonna fuck with your mind a little bit, and you brought your kids to this movie, so that kind of vibe. I don't know. That's all I meant.
You still bring your kids to Batman Forever with the thrusting and Nicole Kidman practically, giving herself a batgasm.
Word. Mark. You're so right. You know what? You're right.
No,
you're right. What am I arguing against? Schumacher is such a sexual dude. If you listen to his commentaries, he's like, people always get down on me about sexualizing young people, and I'm like, so you're right. You're right, Mark. I can't.
I'm not trying to be an asshole.
No,
I'm just trying to.
You're right. You're right.
It's just the way I see it. And Paul, we'll finish up with you. Is there still the sex and perversion? I know you love this film, but still, that still seems to be a theme in here that we saw in Batman Returns.
But it's like, to me, it's like saying to me it was like the difference between erotica and fan fiction, porn, basically.
Wow.
It's because erotica to me is sexy. That's sensual, and that's what Batman Returns was to me. Because the Catwoman, the lines, the way, the looks, the chemistry was all there, and that to me is sweet erotica. That is the artistic form of sex, and to me that's sexy. Mm-hmm. And this was just poorly done, type of, hey, look what I can write type of dialogue. And I think you guys can agree with me on that.
Yeah.
And to me, that's not sexy at all. So there is no perversion in there. That's just, it wasn't sexy at all to me. I didn't see it like that in that way. It was just, I was looking more again of the obsession where she was just obsessing. It's more of a stalker thing. Oh, I love you so much, I'm going to stalk you.
Okay, so stalking and jumping on someone is
it's not sexy to me, but it's somewhat perverse. But
well, that's what it's still perverse though. I guess that's the point I was trying to look for, was it still is perverse. I mean, no matter how you package it, she's still, yes, she's obsessing, but she wants to get in Batman's pants, and the minute he shows up, it's like free love in Woodstock, man. Come on, let's go right now.
But and again, if they're referring back to like the 60s television show, which kind of had that little vibe to it, yeah, maybe
and I'm fine with that, but then don't sit here and say you're appealing to a family audience. Because if you look at,
they're hiding it in a better. I think they did a better job of hiding it, because they obviously did.
Because I saw it right up front. But if other people didn't notice, it's great. But for me, I'm watching this going, holy crap! There's a lot of sex in this movie.
When I was younger, I didn't see it either. I see it now as an adult because it's like,
it's the same thing with those Christian values that our parents teach us.
Yeah,
just kind of sink in.
What we talked about Animaniacs. There's much more innuendo, I think, in an episode of Animaniacs than.
Oh, I would have to disagree with you there. There's a lot of innuendo and stuff.
here's my question: is Bruce Wayne supposed to be the millionaire playboy? Because if he is, none of these movies have portrayed that appropriately.
That's correct.
No, they haven't. In either case, he is not. In this one, he's the brooding part. And the parts that I actually liked Bruce Wayne in the most in this were the parts where he was contemplating and blaming himself and thinking about his past and such. Those moments I really enjoyed. And Val Kilmer actually felt like he was kind of acting in those scenes and not phoning it in when he was trying to reflect on his past. And we got those flashback scenes and he kind of blamed himself for it. You know, I liked those bits, but there is still, I don't think it's as innocent. And again, it's watching these back to back like this. Yeah, it's in a different form, but at its core, it's still the same.
But it's the degree. It's like when they do the rating systems for the television, the stuff that they can get away with is you know, amazing. You know,
Nicole Kidman is wearing less in this than Catwoman did. So I guess I'm trying to understand how this film is still tamer.
And yet I found Catwoman much more sexy than Nicole Kidman.
Well, I'm not talking about sex. I'm just talking about looking at it from you know, wardrobe and approach with her. I'm not saying whether or not it's sexy. I'm just saying simple fact of they were trying to tout this as still family friendly. When I'm looking at this going, how is this family friendly when, you know,
she wasn't wearing a bikini.
Don't you think Batman Returns is just grosser though, Mark? On a certain level, just like you might want to shower after you see it, kind of.
I wanted to wash my eyes out after I saw Batman Forever, but
all right.
I hear you.
So here's the thing with as far as sexuality and just the women in general between the two movies, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman was empowering. I mean, not fantastic, overly sexualized, yes, but she was intended to be empowering. She was embracing her. She was intended to embrace women power, whatever. In this movie, Nicole Kidman is kind of an embarrassment.
But there are scenes.
Meridian character is an embarrassment. Even the sugar and spice characters in this movie, they're appendages.
Yeah, I agree.
Chase Meridian is an embarrassing example of a psychologist. She doesn't recognize anything that's put right in front of her face at any point in this film. I hated the character, and from a female standpoint, she would have been better off not being in the film.
I agree, but there are scenes where they do try. They have tried, like when Bruce Wayne first meets her, he thinks he has to come in and save her, and at that moment, there's that scene that says, "No, I do not need to be saved." She's basically fighting it out, you know, and she does notice that it is Batman, obviously, but it was a bad scene that she had to find out because she found out by kissing him. Oh yeah, he kisses just like Batman. That was a bad thing, but she does figure it out, and they do rely on her giving her input on some of the characters, the character profiles of the characters. The commissioner
it's a token. It's a complete token.
I understand, but I'm just saying that they attempted to.
And yet when Nigma's right in front of her in that scene at Nigmatech, the ball, when he's right in front of her and he is literally mimicking everything Bruce Wayne is doing, from taking on and off the glasses, being dressed exactly as Bruce Wayne, every aspect, including the mole on his face, she doesn't catch on. It's humiliating.
I understand, and there's no way that I can defend a character that badly written, but I am willing to try. That's what I'm saying. You know, I'm willing to try because I don't want to think that everybody. You know, I don't want to think that the movie makers did this on purpose. You know.
Oh, I am absolutely certain that they did not do this on purpose. I am absolutely certain that they gave this no thought whatsoever.
And maybe that's the case.
Yeah, and the Chase Meridian. And here's the thing, Paul. No, I get what you're saying. There are glimpses. It's this problem that I still had with this film, and we'll wrap it up here because we are going a little long tonight. But it's the problem I had with this film was there are glimpses. There are glimpses of them trying to do something like, you know, that we actually like Chase Meridian punching a bag and figuring things out. But they never stay on that long enough. They never actually develop it long enough because it's poorly written. We mentioned already, the one thing that this whole panel can agree on, if anything tonight, is that the dialogue is horribly written in this film. At least it's a consensus we can all take on this film, if nothing else, is the fact that the dialogue, and it's bad, but that's a key element, especially for this type of film, because when you got the visuals, okay, great, now give me a story with it, and the dialogue just never gets there, and they end up showing these glimpses of ideas, but then they fall back on it. I mean, Chase Meridian got more, she felt more along the lines of Vicky Vale in many ways.
Yeah.
A more pathetic Vicky Vale.
Right. In the fact of, and I understand the whole obsession thing, but I'm with Dawn on this. There's parts in here where they show great stuff. It's just not there long enough for me to actually stick and believe with the character. And I get what you're saying, Paul, because I am seeing those glimpses, but I think where Dawn's coming from is it's just not, it's not well thought out, because this film at its core was a marketing cash-in for the real reason why they made it, because they and the box office does not lie, and we talk about it tonight. And Batman Returns, now domestically the films were very close to each other in terms of Hollywood. Okay, domestically, Returns made 162 million, Batman Forever made 184 million. Where the difference comes in is overseas. Total Returns made 266 million. Forever made $336 million. So, you know,
everyone likes Jim Carrey apparently.
And that you've nailed it on the head, Paul, because I think we all know films enough to know that they're marketed different overseas, at least back then in the 90s, than they are today, than they were in the US. Name recognition was bigger overseas than what the film was actually about. I mean, you look at posters from foreign cinema and that, and how they promote it. The title is small and the names are huge, and that's a more of how the films are marketed overseas. At least back in the 90s, I remember reading about that, and how, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the action films, it's like the title isn't at the top. No, it's the actors' names, because that name recognition. And that's what they had in here quite a bit, was they put these characters in here, this cast in here, you know, whether or not they really fit the role, in the end, they just put these people in a popular franchise and they made bank. And I honestly think that they didn't put as much thought as maybe some of the films later and some of the films before it. This felt like a real cash in and just a cash grab, and to sell new toys in the end. There's glimpses of stuff that are really good, but for me, and I agree with Dawn on it, the Chase Meridian character is just all over the place in here, and really falls short of what she probably really could have been in the hands of a better script. So
yeah, sorry, that got away from me a little bit.
Huh?
Or sex kitten and psychologist.
Yeah, that got away from me a little bit.
And unfortunately, the BFD had to drop out because we did go long tonight. We appreciate his contribution, and I think now we'll just go down. We've covered this film quite a bit. Probably talked more about this film than many people have. And you all have given me some extra perspective on this film. I'm not going to say it completely changed my mind that I liked it, but I do have food for thought should I ever sit down and actually watch it again. And we mentioned just briefly the soundtrack before. this was to the mid 90s to where, yeah, you got albums that had soundtracks that with music inspired by the song, which I guess has another bad memory for me because it was very prominent in the Vacation film, but Kiss on a Rose was played in the last quarter of the credits to this film, and it got huge radio play and attached to this film. And this film even had, though, and I totally forgot that it had Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me in it. And I'm like, wow, I don't remember them putting this, but they threw these songs in here so they could build the vocal soundtrack, and that instrumental soundtrack. Well, you heard my words on that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed our Batman Forever discussion tonight. We're going to cut it off here. This is where we have people just go down the aisle. And what we're going to do is, since this is a Third Time's a Charm episode, I do want folks to go down and just mention real briefly if Third Time was a charm for you for this film and where they can find you at. So Cole, was Third Time a charm for you in this franchise, and where can they find you at?
No, I'm a Burton man. I I like the big budget bang of the original and the really disturbing, heartbreaking essence of Returns. So Third Time was not the charm. That said, I love it. You can find me on Shadows and Lovers Productions on Facebook. Again, Shadows and Lovers Productions on Facebook. Thanks for listening to me ramble here tonight.
Well, thank you for joining in on this and braving my trigger, apparently.
Thank you.
Dawn, how about you? Was Third Time a charm, and where can they find you at?
Third Time, definitely not the charm. And who knew? Apparently, I have a trigger in this too. You can find me in theaudience.net.
Fantastic. And David, for you, was Third Time a charm, and where can they find you at?
I guess I would say the Third Charm was not the charm for me. I mean, I enjoyed it the first time. I enjoyed it less this time. So you can find me at Movies Galore Milwaukee on Facebook in a group as well as a page, and you can find me on Twitter. So
fantastic. Thank you very much. And Paul, we know what your answer is going to be.
Hated it. I'm just kidding.
Third Time.
Third Time is a charm. Yes, it is.
And where can they find you at?
You can find me at ForsakenFilmReviews.com, and you can check out my podcast at the Astro Radio Z Network, and you can learn more about the Northeast Wisconsin Horror Film Festival at newhorrorfest.com.
Yay!
Fantastic. And you can find links to all their stuff on our page, specialmarkproductions.com, for the Spoiler Room Archive. Find us on iTunes and Stitchers. Please comment, subscribe, and rate us. We really appreciate your support out there. For me, let me guess, Third Time, was it a charm for me? I think you can know the answer for that.
Let's flip a coin here, Mark.
Let's flip a coin here and see.
And I'm going to throw up a bunch of coins so that we can never know for sure.
I don't think people got the impression tonight of if Third Time was a charm.
52 makeup.
But you can find my stuff at specialmarkproductions.com, as well as We Live Entertainment, where I do written and I do a weekly segment for their YouTube channel, Horror Thursdays. I'm also occasionally on Astro Radio Z as well, whenever Derek allows me on, and that's very kind of him, and very kind of this crew to sit here tonight and talk about Batman Forever. I appreciate you all, and we appreciate the BFD who had to drop out. I think we knew what his answer would be if Third Time was a charm as well. So, I don't think there's mystery there either. I won't even try to replicate the sigh, but stick around for. Oh, there you go.
That was good.
That was good, Don. Stick around for Bat Month here. Stick around for Bat Month. We've got one more in this 4-pack of films I wanted to cover. That one's Batman and Robin, and man, that's going to be interesting to revisit. because I didn't expect this from Batman Forever. I thought I was over it. I guess I'm not. So I'm definitely curious of how Batman and Robin is going to be for me. So we're going to take it out tonight. So go kiss your rose and tune in. Same bat time, same bat channel. And now say goodbye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Goodbye.
Ba, 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 You used to something and then something and something
Delilah
else
after dark.
and something else and something. You're light on my shade.
Now, when you first heard the song, did you think it said grave or gray?
No, it was Grave. No, I got it. They played it like 18 million times.
I believe it's
yeah,
supposed to
they
be
did.
gray. It's supposed to be gray.
I thought it was Kiss on a Rose of Grave, but maybe it's
Yeah.
Gray. I thought
It's
it's Grave though. Death.
naval. It's
Huh?
naval. It's naval.
It's naval.
Never mind.
Naval Kiss
That's not
on the
true.
Rose of my navel. You
That's
play with my
that's not
Batman
accurate.
every
I
chance.
Oh my gosh,
I believe-
according to Google, it is gray.
I think it's
That's
gray.
dumb.
It's
Yeah.
Gray.
It makes much more sense to be gray.
Listen, if
It
you
is
if
gray.
you
It's
listen
the
to
color
the
gray.
song, yeah, he refers to like the gray tower, the very first line that you didn't want to talk, that you didn't want to sing.
We're
Talks
out
about the
we're out of
Gray
here,
Tower.
folks. Good night.
Oh, we're still on.
We're still
Yeah!